Shalom. So, keeping on this idea of the character of Jesus and how he was viewed by the people that viewed him, other than his followers. So specifically the Romans. Those are the ones that were around him. Those are the ones that were controlling him. Or the area, they were the governors. Y'all know what I mean. Nobody controlled Yahweh but the Father, but y'all know what I mean. So this one is actually from the same book I was just talking about, the Acta Pilate or Acta Pilate, Pilate's report, whatever you want to call it. But this is Pontius Pilate, his letter to Tiberius Caesar, Emperor of Rome, right? So we're clear. And Pontius, he was praetor of that area, so that means he had people above him, being like the emperor, really. I mean, he's kind of like how we would think of the governor here, is they're the king of Colorado, but they still answer to King Biden, right? The real controller. So Tiberius Caesar was the president or the king at this time, and he had governors of every little area. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. Y'all already know this, but for those of us that don't know, the Roman government was set up very similarly to the American government, and our government is based off of their ideas. So Pontius Pilate, he had all kinds of people that were underneath him, and they had different responsibilities, just like what we see in government now, right? So obviously they need a secretary. They need somebody that is there all the time and can document what's going on, because obviously Pontius Pilate, he's busy governing, so he can't record everything that he's doing. So just like if you've ever been to court now, even if it's just regular traffic court, they're going to record everything literally now with a microphone and a recorder. But they also have this court clerk. I can't remember what her name is, but there's a specific name for the person that transcribes everything that happens in court. Well, that's who this is, right? That we're about to read from, right? So again, the letter is Pilate's letter to Tiberius Caesar, and the scholars call it Pilate's report. Now, starting, it's a couple pages into it, he's talking of his secretary, speaking about his secretary, and I'm just going to start right here. It says, unwilling to interrupt him by my presence, I continued my walk. But I signified to my secretary to join the group and listen. My secretary's name is Manilius. He is grandson of the chief conspirators who encamped in Etruria, waiting for Catiline. Manius had been a long time inhabitant of Judea, and is well acquainted with the Hebrew language. He was devoted to me and worthy of my confidence. On entering the praetorium, I found Mantius, who related to me the words of Jesus had pronounced at Silo. Never have I read in the works of the philosophers anything that can compare to the maxims of Jesus, one of the rebellious Jews, so numerous in Jerusalem. Having asked Jesus if it was lawful to contribute to Caesar, he replied, render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar, and unto God the things that are God's. It was on account of the wisdom of his sayings that I granted so much liberty to the Nazarene, for it was in my power to have him arrested and exiled to Pontius. But that would have been contrary to the justice which has always characterized the Roman government in all its dealings with men. This man was neither seditious nor rebellious. I extended to him my protection. Unknown perhaps to himself, he was at liberty to act, speak, to assemble and address the people, and choose disciples, unrestrained by any praetorian mandate. Should it ever happen, may the gods avert the omen, should it ever happen. I say that the religion of our forefathers will be supplanted by the religion of Jesus. It was to be this noble toleration that Rome shall owe her premature death, while I, miserable wretch, will have been the instrument of what the Jews call providence and we call destiny. This unlimited freedom granted to Jesus provoked the Jews, not the poor, but the rich and powerful. It is true Jesus was severe on the latter, and this was a political reason. In my opinion, for not restraining the liberty of the Nazarene, scribes and Pharisees, he would say to them, "You are a race of vipers. You resemble painted sepulchres. You appear unto men, but have death within you." At other times, he would sneer at alms of the rich and the proud, telling them that the mite of the poor was more precious than in the sight of God. Complaints were daily made at the praetorium against the insolence of Jesus. I was even informed that some misfortune would befall him, that it would not be the first that Jerusalem had stoned those who called themselves prophets. An appeal would be made to Caesar. However, my conduct was approved by the Senate, and I was promised a reinforcement after the termination of the Parthian War. Being too weak to suppress any insurrection, I resolved upon adopting a measure that promised to restore the tranquility of the city without subjecting the praetorium to humiliating concessions. I wrote to Jesus requesting an interview with him at the praetorium. He came. You know that in my veins flows Spanish mixed with Roman blood, as incapable of fear as it is of weak emotion. When the Nazarene made his appearance, I was walking in my basilic, and my feet seemed fastened with an iron hand to the marble pavement, and I trembled in every limb as does a guilty culprit, though the Nazarene was calm as innocence itself. When he came upon me, or up to me, he stopped, and by my signal sign he seemed to say to me, "I am here," though he spoke not a word. For some reason, I contemplated with admiration and awe this extraordinary type of man, a type of man unknown to our numerous painters who have given form and figure to all the gods and heroes. There was nothing about him that was repelling in its character, yet I felt too odd and tremulous to approach him. "Jesus," I said unto him, at last my tongue faltered. "Jesus of Nazareth, for the last 3 years I have granted you ample freedom of speech, nor do I regret it. Your words are those of a sage. I know not whether you have read Socrates or Plato, but this I know. There is in your discourses a majestic simplicity that elevates you far above those philosophers. The emperor is informed of it, and I, his humble representative in this country, am glad of having allowed you the liberty of which you are so worthy. However, I must not conceal from you that your discourses have raised up against you powerful and inventive enemies, nor is it surprising. Socrates had his enemies, and he fell victim at their hatred. Yours are doubtably incensed against you on account of your discourses being so severe upon their conduct. Against me on account of the liberty I have afforded you. They even accuse me of being indirectly leagued with you for the purpose of delivering the Hebrews a little civil power which Rome has left them. My request, I do not say my order is, that you be more circumspect and moderate in your discourses in the future, and more considerate of them, lest you arouse the pride of your enemies, and they raise against you the stupid populace, and compel me to employ the instruments of law. The Nazarene calmly replied, Prince of the earth, your words proceed not from true wisdom. Say to the torrent to stop in the midst of the mountain gorge. It will uproot the trees of the valley. The torrent will answer you that it obeys the laws of nature and the Creator. God alone knows whether flow of waters of the torrent, whether I say unto you, before before the rose of Sharon blossoms, the blood of the just shall be spilt. Your blood shall not be spilt, I said, and with deep emotion, you are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all the turbulent and proud Pharisees who abuse the freedom granted them by the Romans. They conspire against Caesar and convert his bounty into fear, impressing the unlearned that Caesar is a tyrant and seeks their ruin. Insolent wretches, they are not aware that the wolf of the Tiber sometimes clothes himself with the skin of sheep to accomplish his wicked designs, and I protect you against them. My praetorium shall be an asylum, sacred both day and night. Jesus carelessly shook his head and said, with a grave and divine smile, when the day shall have come, there will be no asylums for the Son of Man, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is there, pointing to the heavens. That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. Young man, I answered mildly, you will oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province which is been confined to my care requires it. You must observe more moderation in your discourses. Do not infringe on my order. You know the consequences. May happiness attend you. Farewell. Prince of the earth, replied Jesus, I come not to bring war into the world, but peace, love, and charity. I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Persecutions proceed not from me. I expect it from others, and I will meet it in obedience to the will of my Father who has shown me the way. Restrain, therefore, your worldly produce. It is not in your power to arrest the victim of the foot of the tabernacle of expiation. So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind the curtains of my basilica, to my great relief, for I felt a heavy burden on me, of which I could not relieve myself while in his presence. To Herod, when then reigned in Galilee. We're not going to go into that, but again, the presence, or the fear that his presence commanded, it's consistent, you know. They saw how kind he was, but felt how powerful he was. Until next time, when he comes back, we will see. That's when the fear is justified. I mean, it's always justified, if you know what I'm saying, but there will actually be a reason to be scared. They will be begging for the mountains to fall in on them.